Cornwallis Prophecy? Ha! January 5, 2020 by Anna von Reitz. When the British General Cornwallis was defeated at Yorktown and forced to surrender his sword to George Washington, he shared some very interesting thoughts, most of which have been repeated in truncated and edited form, taken out of context and misrepresented as threats, instead of talking points preceding a general surrender. The British general was actually doing his duty both as an officer of the British Crown, and as a member of the Peerage. In the one capacity, as an officer of the Crown, he was obligated to give commercial notice. Cornwallis, unlike Washington, knew that all the money the colonists had been borrowing from the French was actually being funneled through the French by the British king. So at the end of the hostilities, the colonists were deep in debt, in fact, to King George III. Cornwallis had to gloat about that fact, and provide commercial notice, so he did. That was part of his not-so-veiled message to General Geo. Washington. In his other capacity as a British peer, he also had duties to attend to, which included giving Washington notice under the laws of international engagement at the time. Remember that Cornwallis's surrender was not a general surrender. Like Lee's surrender at Appomattox a century later, it was a provisional surrender of an army. With that introduction, I'll cut directly to a quote from Senator Joseph McCarthy detailing exactly what Cornwallis said to Washington. The confession of General Cornwallis to General Washington at Yorktown has been well hidden by historians. Jonathan Williams recorded in his Legions of Satan, 1781, that Cornwallis revealed to Washington that a holy war will now begin on America, and when it is ended America will be supposedly the citadel of freedom, but her millions will unknowingly be loyal subjects to the crown. Cornwallis went on to explain what would seem to be a self-contradiction: your churches will be used to teach the Jews religion, and in less than 200 years the whole nation will be working for divine world government. That government that they believe to be divine will be the British Empire. All religions will be permeated with Judaism without even being noticed by the masses, and they will all be under the invisible all-seeing eye of the grand architect of Freemasonry, and indeed George Washington himself was a Mason, and he gave back through a false religion what he had won with his army. Cornwallis well knew that his military defeat was only the beginning of world catastrophe that would be universal, and that unrest would continue until mind control could be accomplished through a false religion. What he predicted has come to pass. A brief sketch of American religious history, and we have seen Masonry infused into every church in America with their veiled phallic religion. Darby and the Plymouth Brethren brought a Jewish Christianity to America. Masons Rutherford and Russell started Jehovah's Witnesses Judaism, which is now worldwide with their message of the divine kingdom. Mason Joseph Smith started Mormon Judaism with its Jewish teaching of millennialism. At the turn of the 20th century there appeared the Scofield Bible with a Jewish interpretation of the prophecies. With wide use of this helpful aid, all the American churches have silently become synagogues. We now have Baptist Jews, Methodist Jews, Church of God Jews, apostate Catholic Jews, and many Protestant Jews throughout America. We are aliens in our own country because of false religion. All are praying for divine deliverance into that divine government which Cornwallis knew to be the British Empire. A false religion has been used to deceive us into allegiance to our enemies of Yorktown and Bunker Hill. No. Not a gun has been fired, but the invisible and malignant process of conquering America with the Jews' religion has gone on unabated. The Union Jack has been planted in our hearts with religious deception. All has happened legally, constitutionally, freely, and completely within our most sacred trust, our churches. Religious deception is painless inoculation against truth. It cannot be removed from the conscience with surgery, yet it is the motivator of our actions and directly controls our lives. Once man gives over to false religion, he is no longer rational because he originates no thought. His life is controlled by whomever controls his religion. The veil of false religion is the sword of Damocles, and its power to control humanity defies even the imagination of tyrants who use it. This is not to say that George Washington was a traitor willingly, or knowingly. He was beguiled into a satanic religious order that insidiously controls men's minds. So have American statesmen and military leaders down through the years given aid and allegiance to the enemies of the United States because they did not have knowledge of the invisible subterfuge that stalks this land. My eyes were opened the day my colleague from Ohio handed me Wagner's Freemasonry an Interpretation. If every American would read it, they would no longer ask why and how it has happened. Okay, this is what has come down to us from Washington to his cronies and affiliates including members of the early Congresses and what has been written down about it and shared among members of Congress as shared by Senator Joseph McCarthy and quoted above. And now you may turn your attention to what has actually happened as regards references to Holy War and look at Franklin Delano Roosevelt's first inaugural address, remembering that he is speaking her as the President of the United States. That is, as the CEO of the Municipal United States government and its municipal corporation. What does Mr. Roosevelt say? That he is engaging his government and its citizenry in a holy cause. He stopped short of saying Holy War, but the echo of Cornwallis is there just the same, and so is the proof in the pudding of everything that has happened in this country since then. And this holy cause is complete world domination by the Roman Catholic Church, not as a Christian church, but as a pagan Roman institution devoted to the worship of Mammon and operating through the secret brotherhood of Freemasonry worldwide, which includes members of all religions, Jews, Muslims, Hindus, Christians, anyone who wants to sell their soul is welcome. So, do you want to sell your soul? Turns out that, just like your body, it has already been seized upon, bought, sold, and traded via the use of baptismal certificates, just as birth certificates have been used to buy, sell, and trade upon your labor and physical assets, without any disclosure to you, without any consent on your part. I think it is clear that these sins and errors of the Roman Church are even far worse than the indulgences that sparked the Protestant Reformation, and that it is incumbent upon every living, breathing, sentient person on this planet to wake up, especially the members of the Roman Catholic Church who will suffer for this gross mismanagement and betrayal of their faith and trust, the unwitting member of all Masonic lodges, who will also suffer if these practices are not ended and fully corrected, and finally, not least of all, the members of all corporate government structures, including the federal, territorial and municipal United States subcontracting service providers. Wake up and realize where the source of the actual trouble is, and where it has always been. Help support this work by visiting www.annavonreitz.com and look for the donate button. Links to this article and more can be found in the video description box.